What if every sushi, croissant, and salad in your city could turn into revenue and climate impact by 6:00 p.m. tonight? This episode is ridiculously amazing because I have Michal Garvey, who's the founder of the award-winning app Foodprint, which connects cafes and eateries with customers to buy surplus food at good discounts, keeping good food out of landfill and dollars into hospitality pockets. Such a great idea. Not as easy as you think in terms of the starting and scaling this kind of enterprise. So in this conversation, we're going to unpack the playbook with having the two-sided marketplace in New Zealand, how Michal solved the cold start problem and onboarded venues without kind of burning millions really, and how she got buy-in from bakeries, food retailers and cafes. There's a lot to unpack, and if you are a cafe, a startup, or if you're an operator hunting practical retention tactics, this will sharpen your margin and your mission. So I'm looking forward to diving that deep into it, and I'll see you inside. Please don't forget to subscribe if you have loved this episode, or if you like this channel and want to support, or if you're on podcasts, you're listening, give us a follow and a review. Okay, let's get into it. Michal.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Hi.
What a vision that you have. In order for you to do this kind of work, you must have incredible appetite for vision, for seeing the future, for seeing the problem in advance. Like, who would have thought that someone like you would have come in and be like, there's too much food on this table and it's all good food and someone needs to go and buy it and it doesn't need to go to waste. I'm so like, if I don't ask you why this is starting, why you're doing this, I'll be like, not the good start of the podcast. So why on earth do you care about, how did it come about to start?
Yeah. It's always a good starting point, the why me, why this. So my deep core why is climate change and the impact that wasted food has on climate change, but also the interconnectedness that climate change and our ability to grow food have on each other. So if we look at some really big and scary high-level facts around food waste, globally, it's pretty widely accepted that we waste about 1/3 of the food that's produced for human consumption. It's about 1.3 billion tons of food each year. And as that food goes to landfill and rots, it emits the greenhouse gas methane, which is a really powerful greenhouse gas. And all up, it's estimated that food waste accounts for about 10% of total greenhouse gas emissions, which is a huge contribution, especially when you look at, I think the aviation industry is around sort of 3 to 4%. But that's sort of looking at the whole life cycle of the food as well. So it's taking into account the emissions that have been created when the food's being produced. It's the energy, it's the water, it's all of that. And then it's the transportation of getting it to that place. It's the packaging that's been created and the emissions that have been created there. It's taking into account all of those emissions at every stage. So if we're creating all these emissions and then we're throwing that product in the bin, it's just crazy. If we think about it when we're thinking about, meat or animal products going to waste, that animal has literally given its life and you've put that steak in the bin. Like, how crazy does that seem when you really take that step back and look at it in that sense? And I think a lot of that comes from the disconnect that we have with where our food is actually from. I think a lot of people can look at a steak and just see it as a steak. Kind of interesting that we've gone down this road because I don't eat meat myself, but in a large part of that is because of the impact that eating animals has, on climate change as well. And so, that's sort of that real, I guess, that high level part of it for me. And that's sort of the why that really got me started. And I think I've really always had this interest in sustainability and food and that interconnectedness that they play. And then on the other end of things, if you look at, remembering back to the Auckland anniversary flooding, and I don't know if you remember the images of onions rolling down the road in Pukekohe, because those onions had been harvested. Onions need to get left in the paddock for, I think it's a couple of weeks to kind of dry out before they get, shipped off to sort of storage and, the whole process that they go through before they end up on shelves for us to purchase. And then that had this huge impact on the supply of onions and kumara and, like a whole bunch of crops throughout that whole year. And so that was sort of like the evidence of a climate event impacting our ability to grow that food. It also, washes away a whole lot of soil that's really like providing nutrients for growing the food. And so if we sort of start to see areas like that constantly getting flooded, then we're going, okay, well, where are we actually going to be able to grow our food to feed ourselves? So there is a really huge interconnectedness that those two things have on each other that also really impact humans and our survival. Really, really getting straight into it and really deep at that core. But then I think, with that, one of the most rewarding parts about what I do is getting to know business owners and keeping money in business owners' pockets and not in the bin. It's also giving access to food that might be out of other people's budgets. It's become this like really beautiful community that's all sort of working towards this common goal of reduced food waste for that bigger picture mission.
What even made you think that you can do it?
I don't know, sheer like determination, I think. I think it was just sheer determination, really. I think that a lot of people kind of look at me and go, "Oh my God, you're crazy. How did you start?" I think for me, it was probably always a case of it was never a case. For me, it was always a case of when I would start my own business and not a case of if.
So you had a bit of a entrepreneurial streak about you?
Yeah, I think so. And I'm really lucky because I grew up as a child of entrepreneurs. And so that, I guess, really set me in that direction. It was just really normalized in my household. Like, my dad didn't go off and work for someone else. My dad got up every day and worked for himself. And even that came out of kind of a bit of a need, I guess, in a sense. I was born in Wellington, and when I was about 18 months old, my dad got a new job offer in Auckland, and so moved the family up. I've got an older sister as well. The Wellington mortgage became an Auckland mortgage, and about 6 months into that, he was made redundant. And through a conversation with a friend, he started a lawn mowing business. And then he kind of hired the kid next door so that he could be mowing more lawns. And then he started getting into mowing school fields and contracting to councils and just sort of growing it and, hiring a few more people and buying bigger machinery along the way, and just grew it in this really organic way. And then I can't actually remember how old I was, but at some point he took a really ballsy gamble, I guess, and put in a contract for facilities maintenance for a huge amount of Auckland City. It was still Auckland City Council at the time, and won it, and then just sort of had to build this business really quickly around being able to service this contract that they'd just won. And so, I guess I've like grown up in this position of seeing that hard work and that determination and that payoff. And so that was really normalized for me. And I think it's really only since I began this journey into Foodprint that I really realized that impact that had actually had on me, if that makes sense. When I talk to other people and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're so brave. Like, I could never start a business," and all of that sort of thing. Whereas for me, as I say, it was always the when, not the if, because that was what was modeled to me basically my whole life.
For someone who have no idea what Foodprint is, and put in simple language and simple terms, what is it?
So Foodprint is a food rescue app. So we partner with local eateries, and it's a platform where they can sell surplus or imperfect food for a discount to help prevent it from going to waste. Now, what that actually means for consumers, for probably most of the people listening, is that you can go on the app, and throughout the day, different eateries throughout the country will be listing food that they have in surplus. So it could be things sort of towards the end of the day, the busiest time or the most common time that eateries use us is in the last couple of hours that they're open. So think of times when you've been into your favorite cafe, it's a rainy Tuesday, there's no one in there, you've gone in for your little like 2:00 sweet treat, there's no one else in there, and you're looking at their cabinet and thinking like, oh my gosh, are they going to sell all of this? What else can they do with it? Well, the answer is that they're putting it on Foodprint.
Because I always think and wonder, what do people do with the surplus food in the supermarkets and the cafes? And I mean, I know that sometimes it gets put out the next day.
Yeah.
And I always think, how fresh is that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it's a bit of a controversial thing to say, but how, like, you know, I suppose it's better to sell it the same day and keep fresh.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it depends on the food as well. If you think of something like a cheese scone, they kind of go rock hard overnight, but obviously you can get those. Sometimes they might be the day before is on Foodprint, and they're usually at quite a nice high kind of 60 and above discount, and you know that scone is not going to be one that you're going to be eating on the way home. It's one that you're going to take home and you're going to toast it and put some butter on it. Like, that's sort of the expectation that you have when you know that it might be yesterday's. But yeah, different eateries will have sort of different rules and regulations, and it's all within their food control plans.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some things like sushi. There's absolutely no way you can keep sushi till the day the following day.
Yeah.
The rice goes really hard and gluggy, and they couldn't sell it. And so yeah, unfortunately, a lot of time food does end up in the bin, which has that cost to the planet, but also that huge cost to business.
And also in New Zealand, how do you have any numbers with regards to the food waste that we have?
Yeah,
or is it not enough research at the moment?
There's honestly not enough research. There's a lot of amazing work going on in New Zealand to really piece together all of those stats. But yeah, it is.
What do you estimate it to be? What's your personal? I mean, you've spoken to so many business cafes and eateries.
Yeah.
Can you
and to
extrapolate?
Be honest, I need to go deep into our data and actually find that. There's some sort of data that estimates, but from sort of the hospitality industry, at least 25,000 tons each year.
What does that mean? What is 25 tons?
Yeah, exactly, right. It's so much that you and I can't even comprehend what that actually looks like.
Like how many Sky Tower buildings is that?
A lot.
I'm going to look it up.
I think
25 tons.
That may be a more tangible way of us thinking about it, rather than thinking about like the tons of food in amounts that are like
wasted.
So much more than we can even visualize, is the monetary value of that,
Of course.
So some of the businesses that work with Foodprint, are earning several $100s worth of, I'm paying them on a weekly basis several $100. They
earn. Because I was going to ask, what's the mechanics of how are they winning and how is the customer winning and how are you winning?
Yeah. And those several $100s worth of food that they're getting back is food that they have discounted and that Foodprint's taken. We take a small percentage, but we do take a percentage out of, and they're still getting that much back. And for those businesses, that's sometimes a part-time employee. If you kind of think about it in that full holistic
the earnings.
Yeah.
So like if I look at 10 cafes right now, how many of those cafes in those 10 would have food wasted?
All of them
really?
At some point. Okay. I think that there's some that like to think that they've like really, really nailed it and they don't ever have anything, but if they don't ever have anything, then the argument might be, well, like, should you have been like making a little bit more? Is there like more customers that you're like missing out on? I remember when I first started this journey, someone sort of saying to me, like, we always have waste because we want the customer that comes in 10 minutes before we close to have options of what they're going to pick and not to feel like, I've got the one thing left.
I can't tell you how many times I've been into a cafe, almost like every single cafe where I get in, if it's late, there's nothing to choose from. It's always sold out and I don't have choices, or if the choices that are left are things that I'm not interested in.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a turn off for a client or a customer.
Yeah, but then it's like the flip side of that is the cost to the business. And even those ones where you do go in and there's nothing left, that won't be there every day, you know?
Yeah.
And what we found in the kind of post-COVID and the increase of people working from home is that consistency is inconsistent, essentially. Whereas prior to COVID, they'd have really great forecasting models that they could kind of nail exactly how much they needed to make. But now, this week you work from home on a Tuesday, but next week you work from home on a Wednesday. And so they're forecasting on the day that you were in last week, but you're not there anymore.
That plays a huge role, doesn't it, into cafes and how much they prepare.
Yeah.
Because they're not full time in office. People are not full time working in offices these days. So
our habits just completely changed.
Has just flipped.
Yeah. And so that's sort of where we come in on those days where things haven't gone to plan. Like even with the most planning and forecasting and the hopes that you're going to, be sold out and have those empty cabinets, which kind of in a sense is the ideal. But then are you missing out on something? But we come in like those days where you're going, oh my gosh, where is everything? Where is everybody? Then you know that those business owners know that they can put things on Foodprint and that they've got that backup that's going to bring customers and money in.
So how many vendors or eateries have signed up with you?
Yeah, so we've got about 600 eateries across the country and we are growing so fast at the moment, which is a great problem to have. I think we've just in this week alone, I think we've had about 10 businesses reach out to us to join the platform, as well as my amazing business development specialist reaching out to many more, getting them to join. And the really exciting thing that we're doing at the moment is stepping more and more into the food retail space. So when we first started, we really focused on sort of cafes, bakeries, sushi. Think sort of anywhere where you're buying your lunch that has a large cabinet is probably the easiest thing for people to think about. But now we're working with more and more food retailers as well. So the likes of Good For stores, they've got about 9 stores throughout the country. And we're a few convenience stores, and we're also getting into Foursquares, which is a really exciting place to
play.
What
about places like Faro, the big supermarkets and the pack and saves and countdowns? Yeah,
so there's been lots of conversations happening in the background, and Foursquares are kind of that really starting point for us in that space. I will also say that a lot of supermarkets do work with food rescue organizations. So when I say that, I mean more like charities who are helping people experiencing food insecurity. And what the supermarkets can provide for those types of organizations is scale and consistency every day. While the exact food that they have might change every day, they're probably going to have a similar amount of volume each day. And that's the stuff that those organizations are kind of equipped to deal with. And that's the scale that they actually need to fulfill this huge problem of food insecurity that New Zealand is having. And unfortunately, that's a real growing problem for us. But we kind of tend to service the smaller scale ones that aren't serviced by those food rescue organizations. So again, if you think about a charity organization who's got limited resources, who's maybe working with volunteers, the amount of time and fuel for a volunteer to drive around every single cafe at 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon in Auckland traffic and pick up, it might be like 10 things today, but it might only be 2 scones tomorrow. And that kind of inconsistency, it's just not worth it for them. They need to go straight to those producers and supermarkets. And so that's sort of that gap that we...
So it's kind of like you servicing or working with the cafes and eateries. So how did you get your first 100 eateries on board? And we're a business entrepreneurship podcast, and people want to understand, like, if they're starting a business and wanting to get buy-in, whether they have a SaaS app or a software or a product or whatever, because you genuinely have got like a marketplace. And what were these early conversations like?
Yeah, I think I'm really lucky in the sense that my prior career was in sales. And that's probably not a place that a lot of entrepreneurs come to when it comes to finding their first clients. So those early conversations were me going door knocking with this horrific little PowerPoint presentation. It was before I even knew that Canva, well, it might have even been before Canva existed, definitely before I knew it existed. It was so off brand, but I felt like I needed like a crutch to kind of show like the wireframes of what my app was going to look like to sort of help get that buy-in. And I just went door knocking essentially. I, made some phone calls. Went door knocking. I think probably prior to that, I'd done a little bit of customer research. I always joke that if I kind of knew what I know now back then, would I even be sitting here? I'm not quite sure. But
why do you say that?
Well, I think when you sort of get really into the startup world and go through accelerator programs and all of this sort of thing, they're always like, talk to your customers before you build the products. Well, I had some conversations, but I just went straight in and built a product and kind of went, oh my God, what am I doing? Like every if they build it, if I build it, they will come.
So do you think it's a myth that you should be talking to your customers or before you even build the product? Because this is what I always hear on the podcast. Yeah. You need to be problem obsessed.
Yeah, I think maybe there was some dumb luck that came for me, which is great. I'd seen similar models overseas as well. So I'd seen the success and personally used them. So I sort of had a really clear understanding of how it would work and what elements I wanted to bring into the product that I was building for the New Zealand the New Zealand market.
What was some of the most difficult moments of getting those first conversations, and what was challenging at that time in the early days?
There was definitely challenges of in a way almost just trying to work out what the timing was. I think honestly I was so lucky with a lot of those early conversations that I had, and my favorite one, and I will give her a shout out, but is Angie from Ripe Deli, who's I used to live just down the road from there many years ago. And she was the first eatery that gave me a solid yes. And that was like the confidence that I needed to go and have more. I was sort of having multiple conversations at that time, but she was the first one. And I scrolled back on her Instagram for 3 years and found a "we're hiring" post that had her phone number on it. And I called her and I was like, I'm building a food waste app. Can I meet with you? Wow. That's literally how I got my first meeting with her specifically. And then I went in there with my terrible presentation, gave it to her. She was just like, yeah, this is brilliant. Can't wait. Sign all my locations up, Yeah. And then
did they needed to invest in you to sign up, or just for free?
No, it was free. So I kept that barrier for entry for the eateries really, really low, and we're actually still free for them to join. And that's
cool.
still, a huge selling point, because even though we've been going for 6 years, there is still an element of skepticism or does this work or whatever. And even just this week, we had an eatery join, and one of my team members did we give them onboarding. We really work with the businesses and understand what their pain points are and make recommendations around how they can best use the platform. And, we always say to them, look, you're brand new on here. It might take a couple of days before you get your first orders. They had their onboarding session. And within 2 hours, they had 5 orders and had sold out of everything that they'd listed, and so the communication with that was, this works great, super excited, thanks for all your help. And that's that amazing, those stories of success with the platform. They're business owners that just get it. They can't wait for that first deposit in their account.
I love how summer is just around the corner here in New Zealand, which means one thing, let's get out there and have some fun on the beach. Who wants that? I do. My friend Jürgen at Hibiscus Jet Ski is giving away free jet ski rides for 2. I tried it, I loved it, and I thought what a great way to get out of my comfort zone. Yeah. If you want to be in to win, click the link in the description to enter. So I really want, because this is such a very, very interesting. I've always been interested to find out, how did you have those first conversations and the first buy-ins? And you had to build an app And that means money.
Yeah.
And the business owners would sign up for free. So how did you even come up with the money to fund all of that?
Yeah, so I'm really, really lucky. I mentioned earlier that, my parents are entrepreneurs. And so that also meant that they were able to support the funding for Foodprint. And what that means is that we still own 100% of the business. I have had some external funding through, I like to call it, I've gone after free money. So I've had some waste minimisation funding from councils, and also one of the accelerator programs that I did came with some money. But I'm in a really great position that I haven't had to give away equity for, I haven't had to give away equity.
Yeah, that is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it allows you a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of conversations. You had a few hundred, the first 100 eateries.
Yeah.
Can you walk me through what you were thinking as an early stage entrepreneur, and what was your mindset at the start? Oh yeah, good. I've got this first business on. What do I need to do next? Oh yeah, I'm gonna do that one. I don't know what. Can you walk me through what was in your mind, in your head, back in the day?
Yeah, I think probably what was really going on was a whole lot of naivety
yeah.
and just this determination that this will work. So yeah, I sort of had that conversation with Angie, then I picked up the phone and had a few more conversations, and it was just that case of that first one, yes, they're on, and then you get to 5, and then it gives you more and more confidence to sort of keep going. And some of them then would introduce me we're in this little food court area, and so we know these guys and these guys, here's the introductions. And that network effect was really, really beneficial. But I definitely had some really key businesses in mind that I wanted to target.
Why?
I really had some key businesses in mind that I wanted to target, and they were ones that were sort of a caliber that I wanted to see on the app. And so that was the likes of, Ripe Deli, of And Sushi. I walked into the Caker back in the day when they had their little shop on K Road, and I think they were in the middle of a meeting, and I just pitched to Jordan in the middle of the meeting. And then I got an email a couple of days later from her manager being like, yeah, cool, we're in. And they were a huge part of my success because they were such a popular, well-known brand, and knowing that I'd be able to leverage off of the other brands that we were working with to help us grow initially, that just felt like the really natural place.
Yeah.
I've always been a foodie myself, and so I wanted to make sure that the app was stacked with the type of food that I wanted to eat as well. And then I think once you sort of have a few of those brands, you can leverage off of them to help bring on more and more of, that same kind of caliber to get things, to build that momentum.
Is it if I have this brand on my app, I'm going to look really good and other people want to be part of it? Because this brand is there.
Exactly. It's that Jones effect, right? They're on. Okay, well, that means that I've got to be on as well. And making sure that there was, food that would hit different dietary preferences. So I don't eat meat. So making sure that there was food on the app that I would eat, Revive and Little Bird Kitchen. Megan from there has been an amazing help, support and advocate for what we do as well. So and then I really focused on the sort of center of Auckland. So the CBD, sort of that Ponsonby Greyland area, and Takapuna.
Was that a specific strategy that you came up with?
Yeah, and it's really funny because
why?
I don't know if it was necessarily something that I thought through as a strategy, but I just knew that that's what I needed to do. So there's just this very blind naivety and instinct that I just seem to have rolled with a lot of the time. But
what made you think like that?
For that was the concentration of people. So
right.
Being a two-sided marketplace, I needed to know. I knew that I needed to have concentration of eateries in one place and also a concentration of consumers. And so that just, starting right in the center of town absolutely made sense. And then, that sort of Ponsonby Greyland area, Takapuna kind of happened by accident because of the likes of us having Ripe Deli and Sushi and a couple of others that had multiple locations that they wanted those on as well. And then just kind of grew it out from there. And that's always been the approach when we go into new regions. We start in the center and just really, really focus on that because, as I said, that is where the eateries are, and that's where the consumers are most of the time. And then you can kind of go out into the suburbs. We also know that like when we have an eatery who's kind of sitting out somewhere really in isolation, they're probably going to struggle. And so we really actually try not to put them on until we're like really ready for that area.
When did you realize you were ready for that area?
I guess it depends if it's like a new city or like a suburb within Auckland sort of thing.
Like what is being ready for that area?
Yeah, it's time, it's capacity, it's actually like looking at that area as well and going, is that an area that Foodprint is going to work in generally?
Or is it like that you have enough people, consumers, who live in that area, that you have enough clients or business?
Yeah.
Because what you're trying to do is the business that joins you needs to feel like, it's actually working.
Yeah. And
but they're joining and they're not investing any money, but they are just posting their food on there, and it will be awesome if that gets sold. So what is the loss? Like, this is such a great model to have. Like, if you were charging the businesses to list their food on there, then they would think more about it. But if they're not investing, I mean, this is a great deal. Like, why wouldn't you do it? Was there any moment where someone said, no, thank you?
Oh, of course. And I think that even that question that you just posed to me is when I first started, and this is probably answering your earlier question of what was going through my mind. It was like, this is a great idea. Who's going to say no to this?
Yeah,
right. And then from a business perspective, like, of course, why wouldn't you want to sell all your food and get more money from it, as well as meeting new customers? And then from a consumer side of it, like, oh, I can get my favorite like bakery food for a discount. This is a win-win all round.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's plenty of businesses that do say no to us, and the reasons are
what is the objection?
Varied.
Yeah. What is the most common objection has been?
The most common objection is actually one that we kind of the most common objection is sort of one that we've defined internally, and it's this sort of coming down to pride and maybe a little like misunderstanding of what we're trying to do.
Oh, okay.
And so there's definitely businesses that, you know, without saying the exact words that I will say now, are kind of like, oh, we're too good to be on that platform, or we wouldn't do something like that, or we wouldn't
like
discount our food.
an image kind of
thing. They're
thing.
worried about their image.
Because isn't it the same as the first table? Like, isn't it a similar concept? First table, like you get half of your meal for but early in the day, like 5 till 7, because 7 o'clock onwards, things get busy.
Yeah.
I use that app, and there's a lot of amazing businesses on that app who have signed up.
Yeah. In that sense, like very like similar, you know, discounting. I think we solve like obviously quite different problems for the businesses, but yeah, really, really similar in terms of what the consumer is getting at the end of the day. So yeah, a lot of businesses sort of, I guess, have this concern around their reputation. But I'm also like really conscious, like I've always been really conscious of that being a potential concern.
Why would that be a concern? I don't understand. I mean, it is such.
Need to ask them.
Why would it be a concern if someone like gets so much benefits out of it?
There's like this, I guess there is a perception that by kind of advertising that you have surplus food, you've maybe done something wrong. And so rather than kind of going, we don't nail it every single day, but we've got a process in place to mitigate when we don't, I feel like they're most likely hiding it away in the corner. So it is a really weird thing, and I think it's not how our brains obviously work, but for a lot of people it might be. Or, you know, and there's a lot of kind of care that I've tried to take around that in terms of how we talk about the food that goes on the app, in terms of the whole experience of the app, in terms of, you know, even like down to the naming, the colors we use. Like the app is well, I think it's very beautiful. It's nice. It's clean. It's whites. It's beautiful watercolors, and it's purples, which are like, luxury colors. It's royalty. It's high end is associated with purple. Like literally that was a conscious brand decision early on to make sure that we are caring for the brands that we're working with. If you contrast that with, say, a bright yellow or a bright green, that brings connotations of like discount stickers in supermarkets and, sale signs and all of that. And so I'm very conscious of that protection of image. Those brands and the image that we're sort of putting out there. And I think maybe some of those people that fall into that kind of like too proud for Foodprint might make the incorrect assumption. They haven't sort of done the research on what we actually are and maybe make that incorrect assumption that we are, that sticker.
Well, this is a good opportunity for them to understand. This is why we do podcasts.
Exactly. Or, that they think that we're the same as like a handwritten 2-for-1 sign out front or something like that. But what we're actually doing is, I kind of joke sometimes that Foodprint's a bit of the like, if you know club, that, we're bringing customers into your store. We get so much anecdotal feedback from the eateries that we work with and also from the customers that they've found each other through Foodprint. They didn't know that, the customer didn't know that eatery existed. They've rescued the food and gone, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And it's only 2 blocks from my house, but it's 2 blocks to the left and I always turn right when I go out. And so I didn't realize that you were just here. Or that they will buy a coffee when they're in, or they've rescued a sandwich, but they want a sweet treat to go with it, and that they've got that ability to upsell those customers. And so it's, again, they're not kind of, maybe it's on us in terms of how we're selling it, that there's something that they're like not kind of understanding or clicking. But I think that I've really tried to build Foodprint as a platform that is for everyone, and they'll come. I think I definitely get a kick when we get sort of an inbound lead from an eatery who we've spoken to 2 years ago going, oh my gosh, I've just found out about you. I'd love to join. Super excited. And then we go into our CRM and we get like this note of like, really rude, said absolutely there's no way we do anything like this. And then we obviously play the game with them, but like it definitely gives me a little kick. So, and there's been many, many instances of that. They're not necessarily all have been rude, but who have said no and then sort of come at it from a different approach at a different time. And that's a huge part of it too. Yeah. You never know what business owners are going through, what change is happening within their business. The day that you decide to pick up the call just might not be the day for them to take a sales call. And so it's just a straight up no. But you don't actually know that at the time of making that call. So there's also that persistence and, revisiting businesses and all of that.
So has it been a sense of profitable for businesses to join your app and being able to literally clear out their cabinets? Like what sort of insights can you tell about the success of the Foodprint app?
Yeah, so it is really varied. I'll be really honest, and we definitely don't sell all of the food that we have. So our biggest problem right now is trying to find more people to buy more of the food. And I think that the great part about what we're doing is there's a cost of living crisis. So Foodprint is a great way for people to treat themselves and still stay within their budgets. But I always kind of say that the businesses who put more into Foodprint will get more out of it. So there's a huge amount of different ways that they can use the platform. The biggest thing is finding their consistency. So eateries that are consistent with us are going to get the most out of us.
Do they not get, so some people are not consistent? Like they would post some items on one day and not the other day?
Exactly. Consistency doesn't necessarily have to be every day either for the eateries, but it's finding their consistency. So for some eateries, consistency is every day, and for others, it's a few times a week or a few times a month. But being consistent will result in more orders. If they kind of list a whole bunch of food one day and then they disappear for 3 months and then they come back and list a whole bunch of food, they're like, why did no one buy it? Or I only got one order or something. And it's like, because people aren't in tune with you being a part of this community, like being an active part of the community.
This is good because it's going to take us through now to the consumer side.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole, like, your business is so intense because it's B2B and B2C.
Yeah.
And you're going to have now to think, okay, someone needs to go and buy the food.
Yeah.
How easy has it been, or how difficult, or how has it been getting buy-in now from the consumer side?
Yeah, so we have built a consumer database of 170,000 customers, and that just grows organically without us doing much a lot of the time.
How did you start? How was the starting point with it?
I had a really amazing woman who helped me out with marketing when we first launched. So if we go back to that kind of idea of we had like our first 50, we had about 50 eateries to start with. And then she kind of just came up with this amazing launch strategy, and her real forte was in PR. And so she got my face everywhere she possibly could in that first kind of 4-week launch period, which was something I was probably, again, that naivety at the start, a little bit unprepared
What did you think? Like, did you think that was a good idea, or were you like,
I thought it was a great idea, try like go everywhere, be everywhere. But the reality was just that how many people said yes to interviews and stuff was quite overwhelming and amazing, right? Which really helped with that growth. I guess to put it into context for you, Sarah and I had sat down and come up with this target for our first week that I wanted to get 1,000 customers within the first week, which felt like that felt great. We got that at 3 p.m. on the first day.
Oh, really?
And so...
how did you do that?
And that was... It really was just the social media marketing, the couple of PR pieces that we'd had. We had a couple of pieces go live
like going
on the day.
Speaking.
So I did like a preview interview with Jessie Mulligan on RNZ, and then I had an amazing piece from another Sarah through what was News Hub, RAP, love that team. I was also on like the AM show, Viva, Noted, like all of the publications. And so we just had this really amazing spread. The eateries were sharing that they were part of our journey. People were just kind of picking it up, like influencers that we hadn't even contacted were just picking it up and posting about it. And so, that really just helped set us up for that sort of successful growth, So again, sort of 1,000 customers in the first day. I think it was about 3 weeks when we hit 10,000. I remember that because my developers gave me, when we sort of first launched, they gave me a bottle of champagne and said that we do this for every client and it's for the first 10K. Oh. And they were like, oh, you'll get that really, really soon, which we did. Obviously, it kind of slowed from that initial first day.
So if someone sitting thinking they've also got something that they want to launch, and how do they go about it? What's your advice?
Probably... Honestly, and it sounds really silly, but don't necessarily follow the tact that I have gone, though I think there is, I think that there's a lot of things that have contributed to that. It's not all just like blind dumb luck. There's a lot of hard work that's gone on in the background, for that. I think for me as well, what I really knew is that being a two-sided marketplace, and to be honest, I don't even think I knew what the phrase two-sided marketplace in 2019, honestly, I was so naive. Obviously now very familiar with that term. But being a two-sided marketplace, I knew that the food had to come first, but the consumers had to match it and to continue gaining that, that momentum. And so it's having that really clear strategy of what you need to do, having all of the roadmap mapped out, ticking things off as you go. And if you've kind of got that plan of what that's going to look like and you have ticked all the things off, then hopefully things should go to plan. They're not always, and you are going to have to go away and rethink about things and change things up and all of that kind of thing. I think a huge part, I know that a huge thing for startups comes down to timing. And, if we think back to 2019 when we launched, climate change was front of mind for everyone. It was such a big issue. It's like the Greta Thunberg school strike for climate, like that whole momentum was huge at that time. Not to say that it's not, climate change is still a huge, huge issue for us. But we've got a whole bunch of other issues that are kind of equal or feeling greater for a lot of people. And so me kind of coming in at that time with like a solution that was like really grounded in reducing food waste for the impact that has on the climate, but also gave people a really fun way to feel like they're contributing to that community and to that action. And that they get to eat cake while doing it. Like, what better way can you kind of come at things? So, I think that that timing really like played into that success at that time, I think. But also that timing was also really, really freaking hard because I was 6 months old and had to shut down the business.
What?
We went into lockdown. And so, that was 4 weeks of not being able to operate and sitting there going, wow. Holy shit. And then it was 2 years of that happening essentially every 6 months. And that was like a restart every 6 months, like Auckland had so many lockdowns.
But did you thrive in the lockdown area? Because some of the eateries were essential people, and
actually most of them weren't. So at that stage we were only working with hospo businesses. So level 4, no hospo business. Even level 3, no one's in the offices. We were so focused on that CBD area that was dead. So even at like those level 3 times, we had very little activity going on the
Interesting.
app. I changed the model, so I made it that they could use us for all ordering, and our customers were like, things aren't discounted. What's going on? This isn't what we expected. And I was like, yeah, cool. Read the room. Do you think maybe we changed things up? I'd communicated this in every which way that we had. But still people missed the comms. And then they're like, oh yeah, that's really cool. And it's like, yeah, thanks for giving me that really negative feedback to really make my day when I'm just trying to support the businesses that we already work with.
So that did not work.
Our customers told us loud and clear. And it also like pushed us into this space where like I had a mentor at the time that was like, this is so cool. You could just become like a full-on ordering platform for like
Uber.
All businesses.
Like Uber.
Yeah. And I was like, well, that's not what I set out to do, and that's not my core.
Kind of against your
my
mission.
Passion wasn't there. Yeah, the mission was gone. The passion for doing that just wasn't there. The customers were telling me they didn't really want it. The platform also wasn't built for that. So like coffee, for example, we tried to like force coffee into it, but like coffee is really complex to order online because you've got different sizes, you've got different types of coffee, you've got different milks, you've got different prices that go along with all of those things. And that's not how our platform was built. And so then I had businesses being like, oh, well, you don't work for coffee. And I'm like, I'm trying, but I didn't build the platform for coffee, And so it was a great test, right? Like, and that's what you've got to do in startups. You pivot and you pivot quickly and you try things. Yeah. And I could have gone, okay, cool. Well, then I'll build the platform for coffee. But then I was sitting there thinking about my core and thinking like, well, that's not
to be honest,
what I want to do.
I still can't order coffee on an app.
Yeah, and the reason for that is because of those complexities.
It's complicated. Yeah. Even though I know what I want, I just feel like it's more complicated. It's so much easier just to go in person. I actually love the interaction.
Yeah.
I love the physical asking, hey, can I get a coffee?
The interaction with the barista where they know your order.
Yeah.
Or,
but like it's the humanity. I've never ordered coffee on an app. And I think the one time I did, I just thought I did it because there were 10 people who needed coffee.
Yeah.
So
that's when it is maybe easier. But it's also taking away from hospitality. Like hospitality is literally about being hospitable. It's about the whole experience.
Yeah.
And so, and that's, I think, a huge part of Foodprint as well, is that we are actually still giving people that experience with hospitality because it is a pickup model where you are still going in there and having that interaction with the people who have made the food, or, you know, and getting them to make you a coffee while you're there as well. Whereas those sort of delivery models, you don't get that. You don't experience like what this place actually is. You know, I said at the top of this conversation that we're so disconnected from our food that if even reconnecting with people, with like the chefs that are making their food in a hospitality business, that's like a small step in connecting us all the way back to where our food comes from, where it's grown, the true value that it actually holds.
Quick one, Mina here. Thank you for watching this episode. I appreciate you. Thank you for all your support. One thing that you can do for me is to please hit the subscribe button below. I promise you that if you hit subscribe, I'm going to work hard to make sure that my episodes are really good, that will get better and better. So, do we have a deal? Okay, back to the episode. Yeah, I like this. So, the first 100 users were super easy because you had a big, massive launch in a month, and it blew out and people started to getting to know you. So that is a lot of people. Like, you have 170,000 people on the platform. I don't know. Like, the question is, what is going to make it more successful in the future? Like, where do you want to invest your money, your energy, your time in the next 18 months to really make something really different and profound in this venture?
Yeah, I think a huge part of it is just continuing to kind of develop and innovate the product in the background, and then also continue to sort of have a huge part of it is the continuing to develop and innovate the product in the background so that the experience for both eateries and customers is improved. You've got to constantly be thinking about the product and improving that. The other aspect of it is continuing to diversify the types of food that's available on the app for consumers. And that's part of what keeps people coming back, is that diversification. Some customers definitely have their favorites, but others love to use Foodprint as a way of exploring new eateries and new types of foods. I think, we often get customers say I wouldn't have bought that food, or I wouldn't have taken that option, but because it was on Foodprint, I went for it. Or they'd found it in a mystery bag and gone, that's actually delicious. So it's sort of continuing to offer these different ways that keep pushing those boundaries for our consumers and creating new experiences for them. Really focusing on those different types of food, which also allows us to expand into different areas as well. So there's a few partnerships and fun things bubbling away in the background. Yeah. And we're only saving a tiny amount of the food of the potential that we could be right across the country. So making sure that, we're continuing to service all of the areas that are constantly asking us to come. But we're a tiny little team of me plus 4. So I like to think we do pretty well with what we've got.
That's good. And if you had lost everything right now, if you've lost your clients, your businesses, the followers, so how would you restart the business?
Yeah, I think that I would definitely start by looking at sort of where things are at in the country at the moment, where we're at with food, where we're at with food waste, where we're at with food security. And I probably would go and do a lot more of the stuff that I didn't do enough of at the start, of talking to customers, really understanding what their problems are, and then looking at what we're doing to solve that. And I think, at the moment, we're definitely solving that problem for them. We are reducing their food waste, we're bringing them new customers, and we're increasing their revenue. Is there a different way we could be doing this? Maybe. So I think it's really understanding the customer problems and making sure that we're solving them.
I do usually ask some questions around mistakes that the business owners have made and what that meant for the business and what did you learn. And I still want to ask you that. I'm sure you've millions of decisions throughout the last 6 years of running Foodprint App, what was the biggest mistake that you've made that really cost you a lot and you learned lots from it?
I maybe wouldn't even say that there's been like necessarily one big mistake, but I'm first to admit that I've got things wrong, along the way. And that can be like anything from, as I sort of said before, making that pivot to try and service all eateries during COVID. Like I've made hiring mistakes. I've made, wrong decisions of like, should we launch in this area at this time? Are we ready? Like many, many things, I think, along the way. And I think the biggest thing is just spending that time reflecting on them, and going, okay, what did I actually learn from that? I do operate at quite a fast pace. And so sometimes I don't spend that time reflecting.
Right.
And then I kind of go, I've made this mistake before. I think really spending that time, is important. Sorry, I don't really answer that very well.
No, it's okay. It's a good answer. That's a good answer. So you've learned you've learned from your mistakes. How different would you operate from those maybe trial and error moments? How different would you, like maybe one way of you do things differently, you would just maybe mentioning it, but for the business owners and entrepreneurs listening, thinking, I would love to learn from your mistakes so I don't have to make them, because you made them already, great, but not great, but like you've learned the lessons. What lessons can I learn from you?
I think this is going to sound like I'm dodging the question. I think like everyone needs to learn from their own mistakes. Like as a business owner, you need to be comfortable that you will make mistakes along the way and that you will find a way to learn and grow from those.
But like, for example, the hiring mistake.
Yeah.
So you were saying, I made a mistake by hiring the wrong person.
Yeah.
You're looking back and you think, okay, this is what I did not do.
Yeah.
This is what I will do next time. What would that be?
I think that, thinking about that being like really, really early on, feeling like I needed to rush the decision, which like you do in a startup when you get to a point of being like, okay, I'm ready to hire someone. You're like, all right, cool. I've got these 10 CVs that I might interview, and then this is the best of a bad bunch maybe. But like, so just spending that little bit more time thinking about like, is this actually the right person for the role? And is this the right role for this person's career? I think really like putting yourself into the candidate's shoes in a recruitment process can be really, really beneficial as well. Making sure that, you think that both they're a good fit for the role, but that the role is also a good fit for them is I think probably my biggest learning in terms of recruitment. Like there's been times where I'm like, I've got excited about, a person or a candidate and that maybe their values align, which is great. And I think really important for a values driven startup, but also making sure that like actually not getting too excited about the candidate themselves and getting excited about their skills. And there's a level of like, some of the skills can be learnt along the way. But what is this role actually going to do to help with their future career development as well, I think is a really important part. And so now I'm much more sort of thorough in that part of the process, refined down lots of the different questions that I'm asking people, and really making sure that that like, I think maybe it's also like making sure that it's not just that they want to work at Foodprint, but that it's that they want to work at Foodprint in this role, if that makes sense. So just making sure that the fit is really there on both sides. And then I think the other aspect of that is me having more and more clarity around what the role that I'm recruiting for looks like. When you're in a startup and you're like, well, it's this, but you might also be doing a bit of this, and this, which is kind of fine and fine for some people, but not necessarily for others. So it's just a lot of that. And I do find that.
What do you find? Do you find like, how do you handle that when the role kind of can expand more, and the person needs to do more tasks that are different from the original.
I think, and I'd like to think what I've been good at with my team and my current team. I've got an amazing group of 4 women that work for me, and I feel so lucky, and I feel really supported by them as a founder, which I think is also really important, making sure that you've got that, mutual support. What I really like doing, and I'd like to think I'm good at, is also looking at what other skills people bring, and is there a place for those skills within the business, and allowing people project time so that they can kind of go and do work that's going to be mutually beneficial as well, so that they're going to get something out of it, but also that the business is going to get something out of it. So again, it's thinking about people in what are they going to get out of it? What is this role going to give for their future career development as well?
You've been fascinating and inspiring and all the above and more. And I really appreciate you coming on the podcast and having a chat, because very much enjoyed understanding how Foodprint works and Foodprint, sorry, not food. Understand the background and the heart behind it. And there was so much that we can still talk about. I didn't realize how fascinating this would have been. So maybe, we'll see you in the future. But for all the best to your endeavors and the work that you do, and hopefully you get 2 million people on your platform.
Thanks so much.